vivid dream. A sad figure appeared in her dream later, believed to be a deceased relative visiting on his death anniversary. I had a vivid dream of a man sitting on the edge of my bed. He was obviously sad, with his face buried in his hands, with no shirt on and wearing blue shorts. In the dream, I kept hiding from him under my sheets, but every time I would peek to see if he was still there, he would stand up and begin to turn around in my direction. Scared to see his face, I would then hide again under my sheets. His figure kept growing each time I looked at him, and I grew more fearful of what he was going to do. I struggled to wake up, even trying to call out to my sister, who was sleeping in the bed next to me at the time. I continued to cry out, and when I couldn't wake myself up, I began to panic in my dream. When I finally woke up, I was sitting up straight in my bed, looking at my sister, who had woken me up from this nightmare. My sister and I are strong believers that the deceased visit us in our dreams, but never have I experienced such a vivid and haunting dream. I didn't recognize the man at the edge of my bed, nor did he say what he was coming to me for. So needless to say, the dream had shaken me up. The next morning at breakfast, my sister had explained to the rest of my family what had happened the night before. When asked to describe what the man looked like, I mentioned his body type and face profile reminded me of my cousin Maya, that he wasn't wearing a shirt, and his shorts were blue. I knew that my Uncle Romy, the father of Ma, had passed away almost 23 years ago, but what I didn't know was that his death anniversary and birthday all fell within a few days prior to my dream. My aunt had mentioned that very little was done to commemorate him this year, and upon describing what the man was wearing, my mother said that it was typical of Uncle Romy to dress like that in the hot Philippine weather. Not to mention, he used to live next door to our home. Whether or not it was him, I'm still not sure, but in his memory, we held a prayer a few days later for his spirit and our other deceased relatives in our home. Dream True Story. A woman dreams of strangers who know her, only to see their messages come true days later. As a child, I would have the typical monster dreams, flying dreams, being chased by someone, yet can't seem to move dreams, and the infamous trying to scream, and no one was able to hear me type of dreams. But as time went on, being exposed to more books, television shows, movies, and listening to Hawaiian folklore, my dreams became more intense and extremely symbolic. You see, my dreams were as if the people in them were real and alive, flesh and blood. Yet most of them were total strangers, but peculiarly, they knew who I was. It seemed as if the people in my dreams, were trying to relay a message of some kind. I was always left puzzled, awakening with a huge question mark hanging over my head. Such dreams didn't make sense to me until I realized what I saw and what I was told in the dream. The message from the person in the dream would unfold either the next day or within a week's time. My puzzling dream. A shared dream, a mysterious man, and friendships that suddenly end. Coincidence or a spirit's message? REM stage. My eyes opened and I found myself in a room. No furniture, no windows. But there stood both my Uncle Jay and friend T. To was holding a solid gold gun in his hand enveloped in jewels. Rubies, diamonds, sapphires, etc. I remember seeing a thin, long chain link which was attached to this gun. With T still smiling and holding the gun outward, I automatically grabbed it from his hand, faced it upward toward the ceiling, and pulled the trigger. Bam! Out came a bullet. My uncle had already left the room, and I remember being furious with T for just having this gun. Suddenly, I found myself standing on the cement pavement, watching an older male yelling at a younger male. I walked up, placed my hand on the shoulder of this young man, and tried to calm the older male down. The older male sat on a bench wearing blue shorts and with no shirt on. His head was bald and round, and his face was scrunched up. I then found myself on the asphalt. Musicians were walking toward the stage, and there was a huge wedding cake sitting to the left of me. My coworker and her girlfriend appeared, and we began to dance and laugh. I then began to slice the cake, and out fell home entertainment equipment, clothes, jewels, etc. I couldn't understand how all of this could fit into this cake. When I awoke, I telephoned a very close friend of mine, S, and began to explain this dream. Her response was, "I saw the same man in my dream. He was standing on your balcony and wanted me to get out of your house." Another woman friend, D, who would often visit me, showed up the next day and shared that in her dream the night before, she had engaged in a physical fight with a man whom she didn't know. He told her to leave me alone and that I belonged to him. When she began to describe him, I knew that it was the same man. I didn't know of any family member who had recently passed that would fit that description. But I did, however, know of a coworker who may have. Ironically, today the two women and I aren't close or even considered friendly to one another. You see, within a week's time, much had unfolded that tore our friendships apart. I then decided to walk away from the relationship with both women. This made me wonder if when the man passed away, did he remain earthbound just to protect me? Or were our simultaneous dreams pure coincidence? The man in my dreams is gone now and has left this earth's plane. Perhaps what he couldn't do in the physical world, he can now do in the angelic. It was in my dreams. A child's eerie dreams predict a birth, a warning, and a tragic loss. Was it just coincidence or something more? It was a usual cold winter's night. I'd say it was in December. I had a weird dream that my auntie was going to have a baby. The next day, my mom told me that my auntie was pregnant. I didn't tell anybody my dream because I knew they would say I was making it up. A few weeks later, I had a dream that my great-grandmother, who had died before I was born, was in my living room looking over a baby and laughing. A man was standing behind her. I couldn't get back to sleep, and I noticed it was 7 o'clock in the morning. I decided to stay awake as it wasn't too early. When my mom got up, I told her about the dream. Of course, she didn't really take any notice, because it was like any normal child's imagination. 11 months passed, and the baby was born. I had another dream that really scared me. It was an old man who was in my other dream, telling me that the baby was weird and didn't deserve to live. Straight away, I woke up and would not go back to sleep. The next day, I decided to tell my mom the horrible dream. She said, "Don't be so silly. Of course, the baby is normal and nothing will happen to it." But after 2 months of having the same dream, the baby was in a car accident and died. Luckily, everyone else lived, although there were a few injuries. Now, every time I have a horrible dream, I tell my family so we are aware for anything. Everybody pays attention to what I say. I'm not sure if it was a one-off, one-time event, or if I can see dead people in my dreams. Not all visitors from the other side come to scare. Like this video if you believe. Subscribe for more true stories. And tell us your experience in the comments.